You have to be the person that's paying attention to your thoughts. You have to be the person that pays attention to your emotions. And when those things start to go awry, you have to tell them to shut up, that you are moving forward and I'm attaining this goal. I don't know how I'm going to attain it. I'm going to move toward it. And guess what? The how always shows up.
All right, welcome back to the Live 100 podcast. Excited to have Dr. Greg Pursley on the show today. Greg, how you doing?
Doing great, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And so Dr. G, as we're going to get to know him here, he's known as a business strategist, personal growth coach, CEO of PC Medical Centers, a leading integrated medical clinic in Cape Girardeau. I'm hoping I'm getting that right, in Missouri. 15 years of experience in healthcare and entrepreneurship. Dr. G is the founder of Fix Your Belief Systems, Fix Your BS, a movement and coaching program helping people identify and overcoming the limiting beliefs that hold them back in life and business. So, Dr. G, excited. I was excited to be on your show, excited to be here with you today. When you first think about the limiting beliefs that usually strike people out of the gate, what is the number one call to action that you call people here to say, hey, listen, let's fix your BS?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing is most people don't know, they don't actually have a vision or an end goal that they're actually aiming for. It's hard to be very specific if you don't know what you're aiming for. So that's step one. And step two is they have a very vague vision. And number two, they're afraid to go after it because it's hard to have a lot of fire and excitement to go after your dream or your goal if it's kind of vague. And so what happens is that two things happen. Internally, their own limiting beliefs, and externally, people around them will tell them they can't or won't, or they're not able to achieve something. And so it just kills whatever goal or desire that person has because they haven't actually sat down and thought about those things, about what they want to do, what the result they want is, and being specific about it.
Do you find that they keep it vague because if they make it real, then there's that chance that they won't succeed?
I think for two reasons. Yes, number one, they do that subconsciously. They don't think about it, but that's just kind of the norm in today's society. But the other thing is I don't think we've been taught on how to create an actual dream or vision in order to make it real to you. If you haven't been taught it and it's a cultural norm that to kind of settle, then it just becomes the natural way of life. You kind of go after stuff when you're younger and then your dreams and all the excitement kind of fizzle out because you aren't living your, I don't know, the life that lights you up and makes you most excited. So what do? You just go, well, I guess this is the life I'm meant for. And I don't subscribe to that. I don't believe that anymore.
So you get stuck in this part. Say you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, right? And you've gone down someone else's path, right? You've gotten a job, you've done what you thought you're supposed to do, and all you found here is you're just not happy. So how do you go reframe to put yourself in a position to learn how to craft the future you want?
Yeah. Most of the time, this happens in people's 20s. In the American dream, we're taught, go to college, get some student loans, get a degree, get a job, get married, borrow to buy a house, borrow to go to school, borrow to buy the engagement ring. Then you have a couple kids and you're in this job and here you are, you're stuck, really stuck because of the debt. So then you're told the American dream nowadays is, work for 30 or 40 years and then you can retire or have a pension of some sort. And I don't subscribe to that. I think living for today, planning for the future, don't get me wrong, but being content and happy in the now is most important. So the first step is you got to figure out who you are. You've got to take note and be aware of what lights you up, what gets you excited, what things that seem like they're easy for you to do, because those are the things that are most aligned with who you are. So you just got to pay attention, and you do that by experiencing life and then taking note. So I experience something, I go, I did like this, I don't like that type of thing. And if you take notes for not that long, really, depending on how many experiences you have, but if you experience life and you take notes, it doesn't take very long for you to really start to cultivate an idea of what your dream life is.
Are you like actively having a notebook throughout the day and you're just like, as you go through, like, oh, that felt good, right? And
right.
Just putting
it doesn't even have to, it can be throughout the day. I use my phone and my notes in my phone a lot. Like, oh, dude, I recant my experiences. I think about them and I write down like, oh, this was amazing. And I also ask myself, like, what do I think would have made it better? But journaling is very important. So some people do that in the morning or at night or both, but they have a little journal. I have a book that I carry around with me all the time. I'm constantly writing things in it. But the idea is that you just pay attention. Most people live life by default. And I was there, which is why I wrote the book, Fix Your Belief Systems. So let me give you 4 things that are very important about that book. I'll give you the premise of it. Really, most people think the thoughts that they think are them, and they're really not. The thoughts that you think come from your brain. Your brain's trying to protect you. Your beliefs are thoughts that you think repetitively. So if you're constantly told something by your parent or you're constantly told something by your brain, you're eventually going to believe it because it's the thoughts that you think repetitively turn into your beliefs. Those 2 things turn into your emotions, and the emotions turn into your actions. So those 4 things are the only 4 things that you actually have control of in your life. So when your brain tells you something, a great example of this is, Jason, you like working out. You're a fit guy. When you're working out and you're running or it gets hard, your brain starts going, that's enough. You've done enough. We should quit. Why? Because you're tapping into an area of your body that is uncomfortable. And your brain says, if I keep going in this direction, we will eventually die. And my job is to keep you alive. So therefore, you should stop. And you have the ability to tell your brain to shut up and say, no, we're going to keep going. Throughout your day, majority of people, 99% of their thoughts are based upon repetition or habits rather than consciously controlling what their thoughts are. Now, how do you know if you are in agreement with your thoughts? Like if your thoughts are coming from a good spot, your emotions, because your emotions tell you, am I in alignment with what my soul, my purpose here on earth is? And how do you know that? If you're in a really everything's flowing with ease, everybody's experienced that. You're happy, you're excited. And that's kind of that's what tells you, are you on track correctly or not? And most people, unfortunately, live most of their life off track, and they are sad, depressed, frustrated, angry, annoyed, all these negative emotions. And if you're living there most of the time, that's what your life is. So that's kind of the overview and understanding of how we kind of dig these ruts in our life because we're not paying attention to your actual thoughts.
You said you were living a life based on default, right? And then at this part, you broke or made a change. What became evident to you, or what was that thing that broke you free of the block you had at the moment?
Let me give you a little background. I have a wife and I have 2 kids. When I was in my early 20s, I graduated as a chiropractic physician. My wife and I had a 1-year-old daughter when we started a practice. And then about 2 years into me practicing in my job, we had our second child. Our second child was born with dwarfism. Random genetic change, no family history, just, hey, guess what? Your son has dwarfism. And we didn't really know what that meant long term. Then he started having a lot of medical issues and he spent a lot of time in a hospital 2 hours from our hometown. Now, I want you to understand, I'm in my early to mid 20s. I have 2 young kids. My daughter was 2.5 when he was born. My wife is now spending a lot of time with my son 2 hours away at a hospital, and I'm the only income of the family, and I just got out of school. So you can imagine it was very stressful.
Yeah.
That put me in a lot of stress, financial and mental, emotional, chemical stress, eating, drinking, trying to reduce the amount of fear, worry, anxiety, and all these things that we were experiencing. I literally lost hair during that time in my life. That's how much stress I was under. I would take showers and hair would fall out. It was crazy. So after about a decade of living like that, in that anxiety, fearful, worried mindset, I realized at some point after studying the greats and using mentors, I realized at some point I was living in these habitual habits and patterns of worry, fear, and anxiety that was causing me to make decisions or take actions that were not benefiting me for my future that I wanted to develop. So in about 2018, I realized that I could not keep living the life I was living the way I was living it and live the life that I wanted to live. So all I did was a friend of mine wrote a book, and in the book, it talked about reverse engineering, which is something I totally believe everybody should do. And it is a simple process. The hard part is you have to get out of your way. So here's the process. Write down your dream life as if you want it to be right now, as if it was right now. What does that look like? For me, I was driving a Porsche 911 Carrera Turbo S. I was living in a home on a lake that had a 3-car garage, and I made it as clear as I could. My wife and I had a great relationship, and we loved going out on dates and hanging out with each other. I was a great father, and my kids loved to hang out with me. I had a access to a jet, a private jet that I could go, and it was basically like a jet suite or something like that. It was like I had mileage points and those type of. I had a company that was running. It was running without me, and it was actually producing more income than I spent every month. And so, and then we had a housekeeper and a maid that would come and do certain things. And we had so I wrote this whole list. And then I put financial values next to each of them. I did a little research. How much would it be to lease this car? How much would it be to own it? How much would it be to have the net jet suite, the jet suite, and all the way down. And what I found out is my dream life, my crazy dream life that I didn't think was ever going to be possible was $22,500 per month. Okay. And that was, I couldn't imagine, anything else. Like, that's amazing. So 22,000, we were taking vacations. I had my clothes that I wanted, whatever, 22 grand, 22.5 a month. So then it became backtrack to 2018 based on where I am now. What is the next logical steps that I should be taking in order to live that dream life? Then I would continuously imagine that dream life as if it was happening now. And then guess what started to happen? Idiosyncrasies, coincidences started to occur. I started to meet different people, got invited to different events that I did not see in the moment of how they connected. But looking back, I can see each thing that was connected because I took control of living the life I wanted to live and my thought processes about that. And I said, I'm going to do what it takes to get there. I don't care how long it takes. I'm just going to take the next logical step toward that goal. Now, 4.5 years later, we have multiple 7-figure companies. I'm not quite to the 22.5 per month in passive income. I mean, actual passive income. Not quite there yet, but within 7 years, I'll be there. And I can see it because I literally took that process. So in 2018, 7 years from now, so we're looking at over about a 12, 13 year period. I went from don't know how I'm going to live day to day to I have a plan that I literally am going to have my dream life in almost 13 years, like 7 years from now. So that was 5 years ago. So 12, 13 years. And anybody can do that. The problem is most people get in their own way and they start to justify the things that they want and tell themselves why they can't have it. And that's where you go wrong. Just live, man. Have fun. Write it down. Play with it. Whatever comes out naturally, write it down. Don't justify it. There's a reason why it's there. Everybody should do that. And then let Jason know how it goes with that. You can let me know on Instagram as well. But it's a fun process. And that's why we created our Build Your Dream Life program. We have a school program is all about building your dream life. I love talking to people about this. I get lit up about it because people start to realize it's not as far off as you might think. And if you take one step after another step, you look back a year from now, or a year into the future, you look back, you go, oh, look how far I've come. And it's a lot of fun.
I adhere to these principles so intently because it's so important to set the stage of where you want to be and then be self-aware about where you show up so you can own it. And then that's how you position yourself for greatness, right? So there's nothing more important about setting that stage because you make it real. Because if you didn't actually go and put down really some financial aspect to all of those pieces, it could have been $1 trillion. In your mind, you're just thinking it's so unattainable because it's $1 billion. It's so light years away, right? But you set that down, 22,500, say, okay, now I can make a plan. Whether it was 22,500, $5,000 or $60,000, at least I know where I stand and what I could do.
It was way closer than I thought. Like in my head,
your mind sets this gap. It's so unattainable. I'll never be able to get it. Like, how am I ever going to do that? And now you say, whoa, look at that. It's real.
Especially because it's not very specific for most people. I'll never get there. Well, yeah, because you don't really have a destination. It's like saying, I want to go on vacation and it's going to be amazing. And you're like, okay, where? I don't know. By when? I'm not sure, but it's going to be awesome. Like, okay, let's set some parameters here. And the other cool thing is you can pull it back to now and say, hey, over the next 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 1 year, what things do I need to put into my life to get there? And most people, it's funny, I really have 5 categories that I really work with on people. It's relationships with themselves and others, their business or career, depending on which one you have. But if you have a business or if you have a career, their finances or their money, their health, or another way people generally come at that is weight loss, but it's really your health is what's most important. And then your personal growth. And if you can focus on those 5 things and really take an assessment and say, where am I at on those 5 things, 0 to 10? Am I a 5, a 2, whatever? There are strategies and tactics and actions that you can take to go from wherever you are to get closer towards that 10 out of 10 on each of those categories. And they're not as hard as you might think. The problem is we have all this murky water in the way of these beliefs or assumptions or conclusions that we've made that don't allow us to move forward. And so we justify the reasons why we can't have the life that we want. And if you really take a step back, that's why I named my book Fix Your BS, because it is all BS. It's just stuff that you made up. Like people tell me all the time, I want to lose weight because they come at the health side with weight generally. I want to lose weight. I'm like, I can teach you tactically 4 things that'll help you lose weight. As long as you do these 4 things. You're probably wondering as a listener, what are those 4 things?
Things, that's right.
All right, let me tell you what they are. Drink nothing but water, eat nothing but fruits and vegetables and lean protein. So water, fruits, vegetables, lean protein, and increase your activity today more than yesterday. Do those 4 things and only those 4 things, and you will lose weight. Now, it's so simple. How come weight loss is a $1 billion, well, probably almost $1 trillion now, multiple $1 billion per year industry? Because people want the secrets. They want the tricks. They want the hacks.
But what is the shortcut? Because there's always the but that has to go in there. But what about this, right?
There's never a shortcut ever in anything. There is simply the tactics that you use and the information that you've gained the knowledge to use those tactics. So it's new information and new actions. And the more you believe the information that you're getting to create those new actions, the more likely it is you'll take those actions. But you have to change your identity. And that's the hard part for people. Like I said in the beginning of this episode, there are 2 main enemies to change. There's the internal world, which is you, inside you, and there's the external world, which is everybody else. You have to understand, if I want to make a change and I want to make more money and I want to live a better lifestyle and I want to lose weight and be healthier and I want to have a business and grow that business, there are external people that have an understanding of who you are. And because they have that understanding, they will get scared if you change, and therefore they will try to stop you from changing. And they do it in little bitty digs that you wouldn't even normally pay attention to, but your subconscious mind is listening. Secondly, internally, if you aren't 100% sold on the fact that you're hitting or achieving this goal no matter what, then the external world and your previous beliefs are going to stop you from achieving it. You have to be the person that's paying attention to your thoughts. You have to be the person that pays attention to your emotions. And when those things start to go awry, you have to tell them to shut up, that you are moving forward and I'm attaining this goal. I don't know how I'm going to attain it. I'm going to move toward it. And guess what? The how always shows up.
With perseverance, it's that just one thought when you say, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure it out. And if you can think about that in all aspects of your life, you will find yourself on the other way. In many times in life, right? That's the separation, because you have people around you that, and I find that sometimes it's the people around you is that they do it out of love too, right? If you have close to you, they want to because they can't imagine in their own mind. Remember, you're on your own journey, right? You're breaking free of patterns that other people have had around you forever. And now here you are going to do something so far different than anybody around you has ever done or even attempted to. So of course they're going to say, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to take that trip? That sounds like, you could really mess up your life. But in fact, it's the journey that you're set upon.
Well, what you have to understand though, what they're telling you, and you know this, but what they're telling you is all they're telling you is that they don't believe that they could achieve the goal that you're saying you can achieve. They're telling you what their belief is about them. They're not saying anything about you. So
they're internalizing it for themselves, right? Saying, I can never see myself doing this, so I can't see you doing this because I can't see me doing that. Right.
So I always say, consider the source. Has the person you're taking information or taking advice from achieved the goal that you're saying you want to achieve? It's that simple. If the answer is no, then you say, oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. And you move on. If the answer is yes, you ask, tell me more. Why is it that you believe that I can't achieve that? Is there something that I'm missing? Is there a resource that I need to gain, some skill set? The only time you should really pay attention to someone's advice is if they've achieved the goal that you're trying to achieve. That's it. You want to get information from them so that you can cut off some of the downfalls or some of the risks. And that's really the only shortcut. The only shortcut is getting information from the right sources and deploying that information as resourceful as you possibly can. That statement I just made is a massive statement. You should write it down and you should study that and really pay attention to it, because I've made not all the mistakes, but a ton of them. And I figured it out, like I said, about 2018. Once I had a goal in mind and I mentally would play that goal in my head, all of a sudden my life got a lot more exciting and a lot easier because things would show up. And I knew it was pretty simple. Hey, do you want to be on this podcast? I don't know. Does it align with the goal that I'm headed towards or not? Because eventually you run out of time to say, you can't say yes to everything. So then it becomes, what makes the most sense for me to take action on that moves me towards my goals? And then life becomes a lot easier because you're like, nope, that doesn't make sense. Yes, that makes sense. These are my priorities. Does this action I'm about to take or this thing I'm about to agree to, does it match? And if it matches, great, do it. If it doesn't, then you're like, oh, not right now. And what's funny is people will respect that more because that's what they want to be like. Most people are saying yes to everything and running around like chickens with their head cut off. So step one, from the beginning of this, like we talked about, you have to figure out what your actual vision of your life is. And it doesn't have to be like perfect. It just has to be somewhere that you're headed toward. And you can change it as you go. But if you're constantly trying to improve your relationships, your business or career, your health, your personal growth, and your finances, then your life's going to be pretty awesome. You know, most people aren't even thinking about any of them.
So you talked earlier about 2018, you set up your vision, you put down a financial goal for what this would accomplish, right? Then you said take a logical first step. For someone here who is ready to go, wants to go, but just can't get out of the mode where like that first step's the most important thing because it gives you action, it gives you momentum, right? What would be a logical first step example? Now, it's not going to relate to everybody, but it can show how Dr. G, his logical first step of what it did.
Okay, well, I actually created, and this is a great segue, not on purpose, but I created the 5 A's of actualization. So what actualization is creating something into your life. It's actualizing it into reality, okay? The first thing you have to have something to aim at. So aim, what is that? That's the goal that we talked about a little bit, okay? Second thing is you have to accept where you are. I have to accept it. I have to accept that's my goal and here's where I'm at. And so it's really simple when you create that gap because then you're like, okay, well, how do I bridge that? Like, what's the next step, right? So then this third thing is I accentuate anything that I'm doing that moves me towards that goal. Accentuate. So accentuate whatever you're doing that moves you towards that goal. I have a list that I created. It's assets and liabilities list. The assets are all the things that move me towards my goal. Liabilities, all the things that don't. Take your liabilities and turn them into assets, meaning, oh, this thing doesn't move me towards. What is something I can do that will move me towards instead of that? So then you start knocking the liabilities off and you build your asset list. That's how you create a better accentuation. Then you abandon anything and everything that moves you away from that goal. Abandon it. Okay. Just like eliminate it from your entire life. Okay. And then apply massive action. You apply this stuff to your life. You pay attention and apply it. And you revisit it on a regular basis because the people who are paying attention are the ones that actually succeed. You know, success is nothing more than movement toward a goal. But if you don't have a goal, if you're not aiming at anything, then there's no way you can feel successful. All right. So that's really the first thing that I tell people to do. Go through those things and really pay attention to where you're headed and where you are. And then this is the one part that I really want people to understand. Be grateful and appreciative for all things that occur in your life. That is very, very hard, but it is attainable. Be grateful and appreciative. So when you're going through this process, there are going to be hard times. Be grateful and appreciative for the hard times. There are going to be good times. Be grateful and appreciative of the good times. The hard times are strictly building you into the next version of yourself that is you have to become in order to achieve the next level of your success. So you're going to attack it better if you're appreciative and grateful of the challenge, as opposed to what most people do, which is they retract and they're scared and they're worried and they're fearful and they're doubtful. And that doesn't provide very much momentum or excitement. So therefore, it slows their progression or stops it altogether. And enough slowing and stopping, that's where they settle typically. So be that 1%. It doesn't take much more. It just takes a little bit more to be that 1% and never give up. And that's really the framework behind achieving a life that is really exciting, where you're excited to get up and do the next thing because you've trained yourself into these habits. And that's what becomes your beliefs, because you've taken enough action with enough thought long enough that turns into your beliefs, which is really who you are automatically. And that's how you become next best version of yourself, and eventually the best version of yourself you can be.
Dr. G, I'm fired up, man. So thank you so much for coming on the show, because I'm ready to go. So I know listeners out there are ready to go. You just got action, literally 25, 30 minutes of action. And you go back, you go through this, you go through a number of different steps of just how to set up your life and then how to get out of your own way to go out there and fix your BS. And that's a really powerful thing that we have dove in today. Dr. G, couldn't thank you enough for coming on the show. For everybody that wants to find more of you, find your book, what's the best way to connect?
If they want to come over they can go to Instagram, but we have a 7-day free trial for you for anybody listening to this on our school program. We just launched it. It's Build Your Dream Life, where it's how to build your dream life. So we call it the Dream Life Builders Group. And what it is it's videos that talk about these things. So that way you can reaccess them. It is the 7 days free trial. You can watch all the videos. You can hop in the school, see what it's all about, because we're really helping people understand this so they can actually move toward their dream life and have other people around them that'll help them do that. That would be the best way. All my links are in that group. And like I said, we have a link for you for the 7-day free trial that everybody can click on.
That's fantastic. Dr. J, thanks so much for being on the Live 100 podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jason. Appreciate you.
All right. For everyone listening, catch you next time.